So, 2023 is finally here. 2022 is finally gone. It's finally out of here. And even though that we're already a few days into 2023, I figured now is probably the best time to talk about the movies from 2022 that I really enjoyed. Welcome to my list of the best movies of 2022. And honestly, this was actually one of the better years in movies since I've been doing this whole thing. I've been doing this since 2019. And I think this has been one of the better years for movies overall. But then again, I feel like ever since the pandemic, people are now finally releasing some new stuff, and we're finally getting some great movies that are coming out, and I don't want to say we're topping our game, but this has probably been one of the better years in a long time when it comes to movies. But first, let's get through some honorable mentions, including Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, surprisingly on my list at all. I was walking in expecting to kind of just not care about this movie, but honestly, I'm so glad I saw it. I love the animation, I love the characters, I love the themes. I loved how it just blends the seriousness of the storyline, but still remaining fun. The performances are great. I had a great time with it. The Woman King, a controversial pick, but I really enjoy this as an action movie. I do think the action's incredible. The acting is really good. The cinematography is great. The score is great. I just, even though I wish that the movie wasn't just simplifying the history of what happened, I feel like it would have been a little bit better. But I do think it's worth watching, especially if you're a fan of action movies. Emily the Criminal, I just saw this one, and Aubrey Plaza gives a great performance. I do think it says a lot about how we look down on people who don't have jobs, and how the system kind of just screws people over who are low income. We've had a lot of those movies this year, unfortunately, but I really enjoyed Emily the Criminal. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, the good Pinocchio movie on this list, with great animation, great performances, a great score by Alexandre Desplat, and I kind of like how it takes the Pinocchio story and kind of makes it its own, and I do think it works overall. All Quiet on the Western Front. This was a movie I also just recently watched, and I thought the intensity was really good. The performances were great. It was an emotional experience. I thought it was a really well done movie. The Whale, a movie that did something that normally doesn't happen to me. It actually kind of made me feel sick and feel good at the same time. Like, there were moments where I just couldn't hear what was going on, and I just didn't want to hear what was going on, but Brendan Fraser is incredible in this movie. Hong Chow, Sadie Sink. Every performance is really great. The claustrophobic feel of it. And the messages of the movie are pretty good, even if I don't really like the overall abuse of the fat suit. Watcher. This was a movie that came out all the way back in June. Came out around the time of Top Gun Maverick, and no one saw it. But this is an intense movie with a great performance by Mika Monroe. A movie that was just completely flew under the radar this year. The Northman. I actually did not review this movie because around the time it came out, I was actually on vacation. But this movie is just epic in every way. The cinematography is great. The production values are great. Alexander Skarsgård is great. Most performances of this movie are pretty good. And this was just an unbelievable epic that they just don't make anymore. Prey, a movie that I did not expect to like as much as I did. I thought Amber Midthunder was great. The horror was great. The action scenes were incredible. Probably the best Predator movie since the original. Nope. Jordan Peele has done it again. A movie that is spectacular with phenomenal performances by Keke Palmer, Daniel Kaluuya, Steven Yeun. I just liked how unpredictable this movie was. I couldn't imagine where it was going to go next. And I just loved the spectacle of it. It was a great time. The Outfit. Another movie that I actually just saw a few weeks ago. But a really intense thriller with Mark Rylance. He's phenomenal in this movie. And I just really enjoyed it. Tar. This is the last of my honorable mentions, but Cate Blanchett gives a phenomenal performance in this movie. There's an incredible score. It's so intense. It may not feel like a lot is happening, but it just feels like everything is happening. It's an incredible movie. Check it out. So, those are my honorable mentions. Now let's get into my actual top 10 list. At number 10, we have Till. Now, I would argue this may not be one of the better made movies this year. I do feel like it does have a made-for-TV quality to it. But I would also argue that the reason why it's on this list is because it may be the most important movie you will see this year. Danielle Deadwyler is phenomenal as Emmett Till's mother. The actor who played Emmett Till was great. I just hated the actress. I hated the character forgot her name, but the actress who played the woman who accused Emmett Till of doing horrible things to her. But I hated her character a lot. This is an emotional movie. This is not an easy movie to get through. But I would argue it may be the most important movie you see. At number 9 was RRR. This movie was just a blast. It was 3 hours long, and I never really felt the length. The performances of the two leads are great. It was action-packed. It was a mixture of a bunch of genres, and I thought it was really well done. Number 8, The Fabelmans. The movie about Steven Spielberg's family that he's been hiding for years. And I do think it is really interesting. I do think performances are great, particularly from Michelle Williams and Paul Dano. I do like the quiet moments in this movie a lot. And I do like the power that cinema has in this movie and how it can affect our world, or how it affects our lives. I do think it's a really well done movie. At number 7, The Banshees of Inisherin. Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson give phenomenal performances in this movie. It made me think about a lot about my life, what I want to do with my life, how people view me, how we view other people in general. And I do think the movie says a lot, and I do think it's not the funniest movie. A lot of people say, oh, it's a comedy. It's not a comedy. It's actually pretty dark. But it was still a really well-made movie, particularly from the leads, including Kerry Condon and Barry Keoghan as well. Fantastic movie overall. At number 6, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Now, the first Knives Out movie I thought was pretty solid. I thought it was pretty good. The performances were solid overall. Glass Onion, honestly, I liked a lot more than Knives Out. Glass Onion, I thought the characters were a little bit more interesting. I love the performances by Daniel Craig, Janelle Monáe, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Edward Norton. They were all really good. I couldn't predict where the mystery was going to go. I love the twist in the second half of the movie. I thought that was really well done. And honestly, I'm just glad I got to see this in a theater before it hit Netflix. At number 5, Pearl. I'm honestly surprised it's really high up on this list. Pearl is a movie that it's kind of crawled under my skin over the last few months, and I'm really glad I got a chance to see it. Mia Goth is phenomenal in this movie. I do love the style of this movie. I do like how it just gets under your skin, and I honestly think it's a better movie than X, personally, which is the first movie in this franchise, but I think Pearl admittedly is a little bit better because I feel like Pearl is just one of those movies that it just goes in and just never lets go. I do think it's a really well-made movie. At number 4, The Menu. This was a movie that looked interesting, looked like it could have been a really fun dark comedy, but honestly, I just really enjoyed this movie more than I expected. The performances are great, particularly from Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Fiennes, Nicholas Hoult, Hong Chow. All really good in this movie. I do love the cinematography. I love the themes that it's talking about. I do think it's a movie that, again, it kind of just gets under your skin. And I do think it's deliciously dark, deliciously funny. I crack up from jokes from this movie, like the joke about student loans. If you didn't see the movie, that joke makes me laugh more than anything right now. I thought it was phenomenal. At number 3, Top Gun Maverick. If you told me Top Gun Maverick was going to be on my best of the year list back in 2022, I would have said, no, there's no way that's going to be on my list. But I'm surprised it's even this high up on my list. Top Gun Maverick is an incredible spectacle with phenomenal performances by Tom Cruise, Miles Teller, Glenn Powell. The scenes in the jets are incredible. It's a really well done story. Even coming from someone like me, who is not a fan of Top Gun, the fact that it's even on this list is actually really incredible. It's an emotional story that really works. The scene with Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise is incredible. And it's also one of the few movies that I've seen at least 3 times in theaters. Imagine that. I would never imagine that. I would see Top Gun Maverick in theaters more than once. But I have. It's incredible. I honestly am really glad that I got to see this thing. At number 2, The Batman. Surprisingly really high up on my list too. I was intrigued by this movie, and I am so glad I saw it, because this is probably, I would argue it's the most comics accurate Batman movie in terms of like style and scope and like how they portray Gotham City. The performances are really good. Robert Pattinson is really good. Paul Dano is terrifying as Riddler in this movie. I do think the other performances are really good, like Colin Farrell and Zoe Kravitz. They're all really good. Even though I do think the movie's a bit too long, I really want to see more from this universe. I want to see what they can do next. I want to see another Batman movie in this universe. I haven't been this excited about a Batman movie since The Dark Knight, and that is a huge accomplishment. But my number 1, the best movie of 2022 in my opinion, was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love this movie. I love everything about it. I love the acting. I love the action. I love the blend of genres. I love how it's basically about everything and about nothing at the same time. I love this movie. I've seen it multiple times. I try to encourage people to just see this movie. And I'm glad a lot of people have gone to see this movie. That everything about this movie is great. The storylines are great. The characters are great. I love everything about this movie. It's just a blast from beginning to end. I always discover something new each time that I watch this movie, and I cannot recommend it more enough. Honestly, I would even go back and say my 3.5 out of 4-star rating for that movie, I would honestly bump it up to 4 because I just want to keep going back and seeing more about this movie and just having fun with it. And it's a movie that both takes itself seriously and doesn't take itself seriously. It's a movie that it's just a complete contradiction of everything, and I love it for that reason. It's a real treat. It's incredible. It's my favorite movie of 2022. I hope you see it. I cannot recommend that movie, as well as any other movie that I mentioned in this video. So, what are the best movies of 2022 in your opinion? And stay tuned because I'm going to talk about the movies that I'd rather forget. Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe. Happy New Year.